Welcome to the Avert Your Eyes Podcast, where we talk with some of the most creative people within North Texas and beyond. I'm your host, Michael Gibson Jr. Hey, the podcast will be giving away a gift card every Saturday in December. We will tell you how, so stay tuned to the end of the podcast. This episode's guest is Michelle LaMont. She is the president and creative founder of Lamont Public Relations, which is a relationship-driven agency that is dedicated to delivering the results that matter. They strive to provide the best public relations and creative marketing strategies tailored to their clients' needs by executing innovative ideas. Michelle continuously aligns media placement for her clients who are regularly featured in local, regional, and national media. Michelle has served on the Taste of the NFL host committee, which was responsible for the 2012 Dallas Cowboys Ultimate Tailgate Party, benefiting the North Texas Food Bank. Also, she was a media chair for Silver Dollar at the Ranch from 2010 to 2014, which raised over $1 million to battle childhood cancers. We discuss her journey to public relations, the importance of being your true self, and so much more on episode 23 of the Avert Your Eyes podcast. Consider yourself warned.
I'm from Dallas, Texas. My mom is from Buga, Colombia, and my father is white. He's American. And so I really say I'm more Colombian than like Tex Colombian than anything else. But that's where I'm from, Dallas originally.
And how long did your mom live in Colombia?
Her entire life. My brother was born there. My older brother was born there. I was almost born there. I'm the first American on my mom's side to be born in the U.S. So I'm a first generation. That's what, they call us. So by the time that she came here, and I was in 6th grade, we had brought over 6 or 7 cousins and nieces and nephews.
Wow.
Yeah. Who are all, doctors and lawyers and, came to America and did great things.
Where'd you end up going to school?
Arizona State University. ASU.
Majoring in?
Business. In
business.
Yeah. I was the genius among the idiots kind of thing. I really wanted to go to, UT or SMU, something like that. But for the scholarship that I needed, I had to go where I was a big fish in a little pond, even though it's a big school. It's not necessarily known for its academics. So it's where I was going to get the most money, being a minority and having the scores that I had. It was great for their average for Texas.
So where'd you end up going to high school?
Oh, well, that's interesting. So my mom and dad had 5 kids. My dad was married before that, and he had 3. And my mom was really just one of those people that's a force of nature. She was second runner-up Miss Columbia.
Wow. So
she came to New York because of that. But since she was 11, she would wash clothes in the river for her town, so she could have extra money so she could go compete. Yeah. And then my dad's mother was Miss Oklahoma. And then, yeah. And then my dad's like 5'5", 380 pounds, and my mom's 5'11", and his mom was like 5'10". And that's how this happens, Like, if she could have married, like, somebody as attractive as he was, I'd be on Money Street. But good thing she was smart and attractive, and, I got a good combination of that. So, anyway, back to the original thing. Let's see, January, March, April of 6th grade, my mom had been going to a bunch of different doctors and said that she wasn't feeling well. And everybody kind of ignored her because, being attractive and having a very thick accent, people kind of like, she was a Sofia Vergara before Sofia Vergara, don't know how to interpret that. So they just kind of think it's in her head and whatnot. really kind of disrespecting her intelligence. You know, she was very successful. She had a lot of businesses. She was she was like the model of what you want to be as a person, and that's what I strive to be. I always, fail, but I keep trying. And so in June, let's say in March, April, May of that year, or right before that, our pediatrician said, what's this lump? And she's like, I've been going to all these doctors. Everybody tells me it's in my head. Long story longer, she had stage 4 undifferentiated lymphomic cancer.
Wow.
And July 18th, she died. So up until that point, I had lived a very incredibly privileged life. We had, my mom had 3 or 4 businesses. My dad came from some financial money from his family. And we had 2 houses, 6 bedrooms. We lived by Pierce High School. A nanny, a maid, a cook. It was everything. Like, every toy in the world you could imagine. I was her first little girl. American too. My brother was Colombian. So like, she told me that I had to be president. So that was my goal. Like I had to be the first president. She's like, Michelita, tú vas a ser la primera presidenta. So it was like that whole expectation thing. And, I remember being at MD Anderson, and it was my brother Jacques, myself, and my brother William. And it was the 4th of July, and there was fireworks going off. And she's now just emaciated, frail of a woman. And, I just always thought of her as, like I said, a powerhouse, because she's 5'10" and just like striking and just incredible. She learned English on Sesame Street.
Wow.
And then got her college degree here, so.
Where'd she go?
NYU.
NYU.
Yeah, NYU. And, so we were sitting there at MD Anderson, and, this fireworks were going off, and she just like looked at us, because my 2 younger brothers and sisters were too young to be at MD Anderson. They just came one day, one time, but we were there for like to say goodbye, basically. And she was like, in Spanish, she was like, look, children, only in America do they care that the sick people see the fireworks. And even though she only had like 13 days left to live, her wasn't like, feel sorry for me or, some sort of, pathetic thing. She was still trying to inspire her children to believe in the American dream, to have hope, to have courage. And, unfortunately, she died, July 17th. And, John, he was an only child, went to Choate. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like one of the most exclusive preparatory schools on the East Coast where the Kennedys went. Wow. When he divorced his first wife to marry my mom, my white family called us Jungle Money kids. And she was the Jungle Money woman, and she was, out of the jungle and an animal.
Wow.
So they didn't really pay attention to us until I was about 5 or 6. My mom entered me in like some little beauty pageant, and I won. And then the white grandmother was very proud, that she had this beautiful little girl, and she took me everywhere. And, I am lighter, so I do look more white than, the average Colombian. And so, unfortunately, John just didn't have the constitution that she had, the strength that she had. And, I had skipped grade. I skipped a grade. And, he told me that I was going to, take a test at a school. And we left the junior high and drove like 3 or 4 hours. And I remember he kept stopping and getting ice cream and food. And I was like, why are we getting so much food? It just seemed weird. And then we got there, and then I took the test, and it was so rudimentary. It was almost weird that this was for another scholarship or something, And then I remember them explaining to me that I was now a ward of the state of Texas, and that I was going to be permanently living in this orphanage.
Wow.
And so that was the end of my childhood. Which was very, you just don't know what someone's going through, and I spent a lot of time trying to make him love me, and then I spent a lot of time hating him, and then I just realized, like, it doesn't matter anyway. Whatever I think, he already made his choice. He just checked out, and, you have to feel more sorry for him that he had an incredible daughter that he just never knew and didn't want to know. And, his excuse was that I reminded him of Marlene so much that it was just too hard for him to look at me. Well, you're a dad. You don't get to make those choices. And your kid's mom just died, and now you're with literally like the dregs of society. I mean, I really had lived such a sheltered, privileged life that I did not ever even know that, kids got abused, or that people were having sex, or, rape was happening, or anything like that. And, it was a very hard transition for me, because one thing, even though they thought I was white, I wasn't. It was very hard because I was the only like white looking kid there. And it was called, it's called the Waco Children's Methodist Home. So when we went to school, junior high and then high school, we went in a bus that said Waco Children's Methodist Home. And if trying to be like popular and cool wasn't hard enough, if you can imagine adding in like, oh, you're that freak. So it took me it was good that I got there in 7th grade, because it took me until about the middle of 8th grade to snap out of it. And there was a counselor there that was from Dartmouth, and I'd never heard of it. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to make my mom proud." He's like, "Well, what would you make your mom proud?" And I was like, "If I was very successful." And he's like, "Okay, so because he's only there for a summer. His name is Darren. And he goes, "If I write a roadmap out for you about how to get to college, are you going to follow it?" And I was like, "Absolutely." Because no one was helping me. No one understood what I wanted, And Darren did. And he basically told me, like, you have to move into these AP classes. You have to start getting extracurricular activities. He was like, go do local beauty pageants. Go for cheerleader if you want to. I was like, oh no, I have no athletic skills whatsoever. And then I found, which ended up being my career later on, but there was a guy that sat next to me, and everybody was in public school, right? So his family owned a big car dealership, because in a small town, a car dealership person is like a celebrity kind of thing. Yeah. So Nesbitt in Waco, and Tom Nesbitt sat behind me in all my AP classes, and he was redhead and played football and, that kind of thing. But we were like brother and sister. And he was like, "Lamont," and I was like, "What?" He goes, "Everybody likes you. You're really funny. My dad's making me run for class president. Will you just be my vice president?" And I was like, "Yes!" And I was like, "This is perfect." So I came up with the slogan, like, I was like, Nesbitt to win it. Lamont will get you heard, or Lamouth will get you heard, because I took a spin on my last name. And then it was like Lamouth, because I was loud and kind of like over the top. And so that stuck, and it was like Lamouth is vice president, and Lamouth did everything. Nesbitt just enjoyed the presidency and for 4 years, and Lamouth took care of business. But it really taught me that you are in a situation that everybody is prejudging you and thinking some kind of way about you, but it's what you see in yourself that determines how people see your lens. And I was bound and determined to be my mother's daughter, not, this is what they called us, homers, because you're from the home. Oh, okay. So the plan was, this, and this. And so then I started doing pre-SAT with Tom and all the other kids that had tutors, because I told them, like, you guys have to help me. And they did. And they would meet up at the school and let me do pre-SAT with them. And, one parent paid for mine, and another parent paid for the test, and another parent took me to go look at schools. And they were like, we're all adopting Michelle, which ended up being great for me because it was so terrible at the home. And it was just such a terrible, terrible, terrible place to be. So when I got the most money for Arizona, that's when I went to Arizona. And, so that's how it is. So I went to Waco High School, but every summer I came back to Dallas because I had friends that were friends with my mom, like women, and they were so furious at John that they kind of like, would come there, pick me up, and I would stay at one person's house for 4 weeks, and you had to get checked out, and it was a big deal, but these women did it. And so because of that, one of the women, I guess her sorority sister was principal at the school I would have gone to, which would be Richardson, and let me take classes during the summer, and I got to graduate twice. So I have 2 high school diplomas. They equally mean nothing in today's world, but I did get to do that with my friends that I would have gone, and I think that was such a gift that my mom was able to like navigate these women to me. And a gift that for everything that has been terrible or negative, there's always been something incredibly wonderful and beautiful and positive, and you just have to choose. Do you see yourself as this sad, abandoned orphan, or do you see yourself as vice president of the class and AP and honors classes and choosing to see your own thing?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then I met my ex-husband right in college, I think my junior year. And right after that, we were together. And we've been together for 19 years.
Wow.
And 2 years ago, we got divorced. So my whole life has been like the orphanage to college to living with him to now this new chapter for me, which is, scary and exciting.
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible.
Kind of hard to have a follow-up question.
A little bit, but I'm sure I'd find something. Now, like, you went to Arizona and then majored in business. What made you decide that you wanted to go have that major and ultimately go into PR?
I just thought that no matter what, my mom was such an entrepreneur. John had businesses. It seemed like the safest course to go because business, you can always get hired somewhere, Yeah. And I'm bilingual, so I read, write, translate in Spanish. And I thought, well, NAFTA's coming, so I'm going to get to work with NAFTA, which wasn't the case at all. My first job out of college, a recruiter put me with, and it was with a copier company, a medical copier company. And they handed you the white pages and a script. And they said, read this script, start at the letter A, and call these businesses to see if and it was medical offices, da-da-da-da. And basically, I would see people getting up and going to the water cooler, going outside and having a cigarette, standing around talking to each other. And in 2 weeks, the goal was to have 2 appointments. So in the first week, I had 21 appointments.
Wow.
I refused to get up off my desk. And I was like, well, if I hit 21 marks and 1 sticks, then I get commission. And that is kind of my whole life, right? Here's the target. No, here's the target. So long story longer, I got, just by calling like a nurse's desk and just stuff like that, a Baylor nurse, to then I connected with her on the phone and I know how to talk to people, and it kept escalating and escalating to where, I think it was the 3rd month I was there, this one cold call turned into Baylor Hospital wanting to buy 12 copiers from us. And my meeting wasn't with my lowly trainee that was annoyed that I had so many appointments. He was so annoyed. It was with the president of the company, and we go into the meeting, and these guys at Baylor, they're asking questions, and the thing with this medical copier, you have to do the math.
Right.
So that's kind of like the whole thing about it, and the president really hadn't done his homework on these bigger pieces. I was only allowed to sell up to 30,000. And in the beginning, you're only doing 10,000, but I had jumped so high. 30,000 was my limit. And these copiers started at 70, but I studied everything from 50 to 200,000. And so when those doctors were in there asking questions and the admins, this guy, all he could do was like smile and look pretty. And, I'm over here like, oh yes, absolutely. We can do this. And like, I'm doing the math in my head and I'm like, okay, well, that'll save you this and that'll do this. So we leave the meeting and, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm like, well, if they buy this many, I'm going to get this much. And I figured out that my commission on that one phone call was going to be right around $80,000.
Nice.
Very nice. Get in the car. The man's wife was part of the company and, we're driving and he's like, Michelle, do you work for somebody else? Are you a spy? I was like, what? No. Like, I don't even have a car. Like, I share a car with my boyfriend, like, my fiance. Like, a spy? A spy for what? And he just kept, like, he just couldn't believe that somebody would have the tenacity to be that young and go after something so big. So then it seemed like we were taking a very long route home. He put his hand on my knee and started to try to put his hand up my leg. And pulled over and wanted to seal a different kind of deal. And obviously, that wasn't going to happen. And you have to remember back then it was pagers, and I got a page on, I basically like shoved him off and said, your wife works with us. I'm engaged. I live with my boyfriend. And he's like, well, you're not going to get very far in this world if you don't really understand what your other values are. He goes, somebody as attractive as you should take advantage of everything she has. And I said, I am taking advantage of everything I have. My brains, my personality. I can't help the shell I came in. So if my sexuality is affecting you, that's on you.
Right.
I'm not flirting with you, And so Friday I got a page and I called the office. This is like 2 days later and they're like, Saturday morning we need you to come in. And so, I took the car and I drove up to the office and it was him, this total floozy looking girl that I never met before, his wife, and the HR person. And they said that I had knowingly gone into floozy girls territory. And that the commission was going to go 90% to her and 10% to me. And they took my pager away. And I remember crying so hard, telling my, husband, like, they took my pager. I don't get my commission. And I was incredibly depressed because, my whole life I'd known that if I worked hard, I would get what I wanted. And I'd worked so hard and never ever thought that that would be something that it just never crossed my mind. And so I essentially had a dream that my dog, who had just passed away, was a waiter in a restaurant. And, I told Steve at the time, my boyfriend at the time became my husband, now my ex-husband, that I didn't want to go work for another company, that I wanted to try to open up a dog restaurant in Dallas. Well, that turned into a dog treat company, and that was called Nixon's Top Dog Bakery and Boutique. And then I did that wholesale, and 18 months in, I was about $200,000 in debt and about to lose, my husband. And but I was waiting tables. I was working full time during the day doing this business. And then 2 nights a week, I rolled pizza dough at Domino's from midnight to 3 a.m. And I still got Petco as an account and Tom Thumb as an account and Whole Foods. The accounts weren't the issue. It was the profit. we couldn't really make enough treats to be profitable. And, you know, he was in it to win it with me. Like, he believed in my dream enough that when it was like, do we pay electricity at the apartment or at the bakery? Well, we're paying it at the bakery. And we would sleep on air mattresses because it was cold at the bakery. And then he would go to he graduated with an accounting degree and he went to his regular job. He's like, this has got to end. You need to go get a job. You need insurance, you know. I'm like, I have a job. He's like, no, you have a dream, not a job. And I said, well, until the bank comes with the trucks and takes my mixer and takes my ovens, I'm not going to quit. It's not going to happen. So I remember sitting there one day and we had this little bakery in Garland, and I said, you know, we're right here by the square. Why don't we put a fence up and make it like a dog bakery in the front? And dog bakeries weren't even a thing. And I said, we can charge like the full price that we charge at Tom Thumb and Whole Foods, maybe even a little bit more, and let them buy it by the pound. And, let's just see how that works. And I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about public relations. And I just started, my grassroots efforts, going next door with my dog and like, hi, I sell dog treats Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here, and yada, yada. So about 4 months after that, this guy came in and he had the car I wanted, black BMW. He had 2 Weimaraners and he was older and he had this beautiful young boyfriend. And they drove all the way from Oak Lawn to Garland to get my treats.
Wow.
So I asked him and I said, I work really hard. I keep getting more accounts. You're so successful. He told me he had a house in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico and he had this. And I was like, what did you do? And he's like, well, I'll tell you. I didn't let somebody decide my limits. I go, I don't do that. I thought. And he goes, and I just keep trying until I find a solution. And I ask people who are smarter than me what their opinions are on things. And I was like, well, that's what I'm doing right now. He goes, so I have an answer for you. And I said, what? He goes, not only would I drive from Oak Lawn, all my friends would drive. Sometimes I get orders for other people. That's because his tickets were like $150 and $200. And I was like, woo, because, it's $8 a pound,
Yeah.
And like the rent for the bakery, all 1,000 square feet was like $800, so profitable. And, he was like, you're not charging enough. You have too much variety. Make things specialty, make them more expensive. He's like, bring a couple of toys in here. He goes, and then the next thing I would do is I would go check out Stonebriar Mall. And I was like, Stonebriar Mall, what's that? He's like, it's in Frisco. I go, where's that? He's like, well, it's where all the families live. And he goes, when you drive up, because I had to go there for something, and it's just babies and children, but all those people have houses, and houses means they have dogs. And I go, how do you know that? He goes, it's marketing. And I go, oh, what's marketing? And so he brought me a marketing book. And I was like, fascinated, because I love math and science. So I was like, data. Oh my gosh, data is amazing. So I went out to Stonebriar, and he was right. All the people had shopping bags, and they all had beautiful cars. And they looked so pretty and well put together. And, like everyone had my car. I was like, no, that's my Beamer. That's my Beamer, And, so long story longer, I had, I think, $500 total in my bank account. And, they had little carts, or they call them kiosks. And, I went to a Monday, I went on a Saturday and I saw all the wealthy white people there. And they were buying stupid things. So I was like, these people gotta like these treats. So I went to the mall office, and this manager, who's still my friend now, Steve Lay, he was the mall manager. So I sat down with him and I said, I want to rent this kiosk for the weekend. It's going to be, I think it was like Easter weekend.
Yeah.
And he was like, we don't do it by the weekend. We do it 6 months in a year. And I said, well, I can't commit to something if I don't know what I'm buying. How much is it, how much does it cost for a month? And you have to remember, it's like 70 square feet. Okay. He's like, it's $1,100 for a month. And I was like, for 80 square feet? I said, I have a place in Garland that's almost 1,100 square feet and I pay $800. He goes, that's Garland. This is Frisco. And he was like, so we don't do that, and kind of dismissed me. So then I came back 2 days later with a box of my treats, and I went to Petco and got some toys. And I said, you don't have anything pets. And I said, but your competition does. North Park has it, the Galleria has it, but Stonebriar doesn't. I said, point one. Point two, you have all these houses, and guess what? The marketing tells me that they all have dogs, because here is the statistic. So I had found a statistic about how many dogs were adopted in Frisco versus Plano, and it was much higher. I said, so all of these people can have one more reason to come to Stonebriar as opposed to go across the street to Target or go across the street to PetSmart. And he sat back in his chair and he was quiet, and I realized I had him. Yeah. So then I said, now, if you let me have the weekend, I'll give you $300 today, and then I'll give you $300 on Sunday. Now, you can make no money, or you can rent that cart for basically 60% of the full retail for 3 days and possibly earn a tenant. But it's going to take a little faith on your side. And this is what I'm going to have. And he said, well, they do it at the end of the month, and they start a new one the 1st. He goes, Friday is the 31st, whatever it was. And if I don't have at least by 4 o'clock on Friday, you can take it, and, you have to give it back to me Monday morning at 9 a.m. So Friday I was there at 6 a.m. with my whole setup and everything. And he goes, Michelle, I told you at the end of the day Friday. And I said, no, if I'm paying $300, I want as much as Friday as I can get, all of Saturday and all of Sunday, And he just started laughing, and he said, okay, if I haven't had any interest in that location. If I don't hear it by 11, you can take it. And he's like, but I want the whole 600. And I literally brought my bank statement. I went, found a bank, came back, and I said, I have $476.22 in my bank account. I said, I have to pay my electricity bill, and it's $90. I'm going to give you $300 of that money. That's all I can do. And I have to have some money in my register. So, he was like, okay. So I think it was Saturday at 2 o'clock when I had sold out. And I had done, I think probably like $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah. And, my ex-husband, my brother, his mom, they were all at the bakery cooking, trying to get stacked up for Sunday. Sunday was another great day, like $500. And I realized that guy was right. I was trying to find bigger accounts, and really I just needed to change directions. So what it taught me in business right away was, no matter what your plan is, if you're not willing to pivot and change, you're going to either get left behind, or you're going to be stuck in a situation that you can't get out of. And because I'm a humble person, I really take advice very well, and I really respect people. And he was right. He was 100% right. And I leased the kiosk. 6 months after that, Willow Bend was opening up, which is this competing mall. And one of the guys that actually was the founder of the company that owned Willow Bend, the Todman company, it was the Todman brother, was out at Frisco. And I'm in my little shirt, and my khakis. And I'm like, hi, would you like some Nixon's Top Dog Treats? And he just looked at me, he goes, is this a dog cart? And I said, yeah, we make fresh baked, all natural, wheat-free, corn-free, like dog treats. They're all made here in Dallas, Texas, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, do you know who owns it? And I said, I do. I own it. And he's like, do you have a card? And I was like, a card? Why would I? Like, no, I just sell the dog treats. Like, I was like, no, but you can find them at Tom Thumb and Whole Foods if you need some more. And he was like, well, no, I want to talk to you. I said, okay, talk. So he told me he's opening a mall, and he wanted to know if I would open an inline store, which means a store that was not a kiosk. It was like a door store, an inline store. And, of course I said yes, with like no idea of what I was saying yes to. And, the bank that had loaned me the money for the mixers, I went back to them, went to Willow Bend, and there was a big dog company that wanted to get in there. It was called 3 Dog Bakery. And I saw their proposal on the table. And I was like, did they bring me in just to compete, like just to make Three Dog pay more? Or do they actually want me here? And I said, you know what? Either way, they're going to make sure they want me here. So when I went into the meeting, I just went, full out. This is why you want me. This is why you want Michelle. This is why you want Nixon's. This is this, this is this, this is this. And they go, well, you hate the name. Nixon's Top Dog Bakery and Boutique is too long.
Definitely a mouthful.
So another marketing, right? And they said, if we give you this opportunity, will you take the space down by Dillard's? And I said, no. I have to be by Neiman Marcus, or I have to be right by an entrance. I either have to be at a place where dogs can walk in, or I have to be in a place that alludes to the fact that I'm a successful bakery and that our products are top notch. If you stick me on down by Dillard's, I'm going to die. And if I'm going to do this, I'm going to borrow against everything that I own in this world to get it done. He goes, well, we like you a lot better than the people from Three Dog. They were very presumptuous. You're a Texan. You have a lot of tenacity, and we're going to give you a space down by Macy's. It's right by the entrance, but you have to change your name. So I think I had like $675, and I found a marketing company, I think in Colorado, that came up with the logo and the name, and it was called Foxy Paws.
Nice.
And the little O had a paw print in it, and I was like, man, that's so cool. Like, at that point I was in love with marketing and like that concept of it. And we became Foxy Paws. And at that point we're talking about 3.5 years into the business. That bank wouldn't give me a loan. I went to 6 other banks. I'm a woman. That was very negative for me. I'm a minority, also bad. I don't have any parents, terrible. I have a college degree, okay. I have a Jeep Cherokee that isn't mine, and some bakery equipment. So after 7 banks turned me down, I went back to the original bank, Ralph Ramsey, Wood Forest Bank in Garland, and I sat in his office and I said, you took a chance on me once, Ralph. I need $30,000 to open this location. I really need 100, but if you give me 30, I will pay it back, whatever terms you want. 2.5 hours of him trying to tell me that I need $250,000 and he can't give it to me and I'm going to fail. I left and I went in my car and I called my husband and I said, Ralph said no. I sat there for 2.5 hours. And I said, I don't know what to do. We have to sign with Willow Bend in 2 days. We don't have the money. And I'd gotten vendors to give me money from the kiosk and, extend things. And I said, I'll call you back. And I went back in the bank and I just told him, I said, give me 15. I can do it with 15. And that was at 3:00 in the afternoon. At 8:00 at night, I was still arguing. I finally got him to give me the 15. And they gave me the $15,000, and I was like, oh, okay. Then I went to Willow Bend, and I was like, okay, I know I have to put up this expensive sign. If I put up the expensive sign, I can't buy fixtures. I can't stock my store. Will you guys let me, either not pay rent or not pay deposit or something, for 30 days because I need that time? And they were very cool. They ended up doing it. Then they came to we got a letter from them, and it said, Todman is going to teach Texas how to shop. And I was like, y'all have not read a lot of marketing books. Texans are born with 2 things. A Neiman Marcus credit card and a map to the closest steakhouse. We eat and we shop. We don't need any help teaching us how to shop, okay? Right. I was like, these East Coast, these New Yorkers, they don't know what the hell they're doing here. So the grand opening comes, they said, everybody that was working on grand opening day, which was 30 days before 9/11 exactly, had to wear a formal attire. We had to wear ball gowns, basically. Okay? So I said, I got you. So I wore a tuxedo. And I put all my dogs in dresses. Guess who was on every TV station in the DFW Metroplex with dogs in ball gowns? Michelle LaMont and Foxy Paws. And from that moment on, the PR was created. So when I stole the show, literally, because I was wearing a man's tuxedo and I had my hair slicked back, all like Armani-ish, you don't know if I'm a woman or a man, and they came and they're like, wow, this is like, the reporter's like, this is crazy. Are you going to sell dog dresses? And this is way before we even had clothes or anything. I was like, eventually, but right now we have these beautiful bakery treats and we make them all fresh. We have muffins and they're like, can you eat them? I was like, yeah. And I took a bite and they're like, and here she is eating her own dog treats, and I was like, yeah, come on down. So with it being a grand opening and being in such an influential neighborhood, Ralph Ramsey came on Sunday at 4:00 and he had food for my husband and I. And he was like, hey guys, I've been sitting outside the store. It's been packed all day. My dogs, I had a 3-legged dog. She's running around the store. And a German Shepherd in a ball gown. Why are you not going to come in?
Right.
So Sunday, 6 o'clock comes, the bell rings for the mall, and I'm just exhausted. And Ralph goes, man, your store looks, it's like, where's all your merchandise, Michelle? It looks so empty. I go, yeah, if I'd gotten $30,000, I would have been able to sell twice as much, but I have something for you. And he's like, what? I said, here's a check, cashier's check for $10,000. And he goes, what? I said, in 3 days, since Thursday to today, I've done $17,000 worth of business. You took a chance on me. I only want to float 5. So I'm paying you back this 10. And he was like, no, it doesn't work that way. You want to build your credit up. I said, no, you believed in me halfway. I'm never, ever, ever going to let anybody let me fail or succeed on that. So I appreciate what you did for me, but moving forward, I'm never borrowing money again. If I can't afford it, I don't own it. And long story longer, I eventually started doing so much business that I opened up at Galleria Mall, and then I opened up at North Park, and then I opened an inline at Stonebriar. And then during the holiday season, I had temporary stores. So from September to January, I had 4 permanent and 4 temporary. I was running 8 stores.
Wow.
And yes, and didn't stop. Then I realized hey, maybe I could even do more if I hired a PR company. Because although I do great publicity and I've won D Magazine and I've won this, I'm not a PR expert. So I should enlist and pay for this. Even though I was the chief marketing officer of a very successful company, in my mind, I wasn't. And I hired this company that I won't say their name, and it would have been smarter for me to take 1,300 $1 bills and put my 4 locations on it and drive up and down the Dallas North Tollway. The only time these people contacted me was when my invoice was due. And it was such a painful and expensive lesson to learn that everything I needed I had, I just assumed I didn't. Because once you have some money, you think, let me hire this person, let me hire this person. And, we moved into this house. We didn't have a little apartment. There's no rolling coins making sure electricity was paid anymore. Those days were gone. But, like I told you, year 3, I was almost $200,000 in debt. And year 5, I was doing a little over $1 million in sales. Wow. Yes. 30 days after we opened Willow Bend, it was 9/11. And everything kind of changed for a long time.
For a lot of people.
But I continued to grow. And then the internet happened. And the internet happened really slowly. And I was reading all of these retail books, about what predictors are and how to get the most out of Black Fridays and and at that same time, I started pitching what I thought was pitching TV segments because I had a lot of charity events. I remember I was pitching Fox 4 and I'd gone to the library and, really tried to do my homework on, how to do this. And I called, I think, 10 different times to Good Day to try to get them to let me on. And every time it was 3, 4, 5 seconds and they hang up on me. So one time I called and I said, Dana, that was her name. She was the associate producer. And I said, Dana, before you hang up, I know you're going to hang up. And she's like, yes, Michelle. I go, before you hang up on me, just hear me out. Dogs, hula hoops, hula skirts, doggy life jackets. I'm going to do a segment. I can do a segment about summer dog safety. We're going to have a big beach party at North Park and at Willow Bend. We're raising money for these 2 charities. I know you have cats. So I have brought in a special thing just for cats that I want you to come oversee the cat situation. And we're going to donate part of that money to this cat rescue. Well, because I knew she loved cats, she said yes. And the next thing I know, I'm at Fox 4 Good Day. And it was my first live TV segment. I had done 2 taped, one for Channel 8 and one for Channel 11. And it was Lauren Prisbill's first day.
Okay.
Megan had just left. And I knew Megan. She'd been a judge for me and stuff like that. And she shopped. And so it was Lauren Prisbill's first day. And she couldn't believe that somebody would put their dog in a life jacket or in like a swimsuit. And she just thought it was hilarious. And I said, why don't you come be a judge? She goes, okay. I go, really? She goes, yes. So during the segment, I go, and you'll also get to meet Good Day's newest anchor, Lauren, because I couldn't say her last name, right? There's no vowels, so it's all Prisbill. It's a P-R-Z-Y-Z-B-L. So I was like, Lauren, new to Dallas, and, curmudgeon Tim, was like, this is ridiculous, and then Dana runs out. She's like, why did you make Lauren, say she was going to be a judge? I said, because she is. And Lauren's like, yeah, I am. I'm like, oh. So then Fox sent a camera. And I was like, whoa, I have just learned something very important. So as that concept and those intuitions grew, I became very good at this. Almost scary good. To where Caesar's Dog Food was doing an event at North Park and at Willow Bend. And it was Name the Dog, contest or something like that. And don't really know what it was, but they came to me with the plan to do marketing and PR with another, a big company. And he said, we want to launch it through your stores. When we go and look at things, it's always Foxy Paws. How do you do all this? And I was like, do what? He's like, you're everywhere. Like every magazine, all this stuff. And I was like, well, because I submit and I write and I do this and I do that and I look for opportunities and I watch the stations and, I learn about what they're doing. So I know how to do it the same way. And I ask everybody questions everywhere I go, always, So, basically the Caesar guy said, here's the plan. And I looked at the plan and I said, this is not going to work here in Dallas. And he's like, why? And I said, I'm not going to tell you. And he goes, why not? I go, because you haven't written me a check. And he said, for what? And I said, for my advice. You've already paid somebody who you think had good advice. They're not running the number one pet boutique. Now we had dog clothes and everything and super snobby and Paris Hilton and all of that was the whole world, Right. So I was kind of like the center universe kind of thing. And Caesar said, well, what would you want? And I had no idea. So I just said, to run the whole event and to do the marketing and PR, it's going to be $3,000. And you have to give me $1,500 right now. And he's like, well, I don't have $1,500 on me, but it's like, I can wire it to you or pay you. It's like, do you have a contract? And I was like, well, I don't have it on me, but I can wire you and, I can email it to you. Because whatever you just said, I'm going to do that. And he hired me and the company was a big organization here in Dallas, and they had to work for me. So I was running their team, even though they got paid probably $30,000. And everything I did, every idea I had, took it to this whole nother level. They had such a huge turnout that they gave me Atlanta, Chicago, and New York.
Nice.
So at that point, I had already closed Stonebriar. The internet was taking over everything. The malls wouldn't allow the Gap to put the Gap.com on the window because they knew the writing was on the wall. And when I saw that, I knew I had to once again pivot. And I came up with a business plan to close my stores, keep one store open, Willow Bend, because I lived in Plano, and make everybody come to me. And I had I'd done some other things to be profitable, and that saved me for a while. And then it just came to a point in time where I was having to work 50 hours a week inside of a fluorescent mall. None of the fun was there. None of the ability. The money was gone almost, very low profit. And I told my husband at the time, I said, I think I'm going to go into PR. And he said, no, you're not. This guy wants to hire you at Land Rover because you're such a great salesperson. This guy at Rolex wants to hire you. I said, I'm not an employee. I'm a leader. I lead. If I fail on my own accord. If I win on my own accord. But I'm never going to work for somebody who followed their dreams and not follow my own. This is something I believe in. And he was like, well, you have 60 days. If you don't have a client, if you're not profitable in 60 days, then you're going to get a job someplace else. Story I had heard before, right? And of course, he ended up working for this Foxy Paws business his whole life, doing the accounting, running this. And he had to go back to work, which he didn't like. I had already, won favors with a lot of people here in DFW. And one of my friends worked for a sports franchise here in DFW. And she and I went to lunch, and I told her, and she's like, she's total opposite of me, quiet, calm, and she was their PR person for this huge company. And she was like, Michelle, you need to go on, you need to get a PRSA affiliation degree. So you make sure that you don't do anything wrong to your clients. I was like, good point. And she was like, and you need to do something for charity. And so they had a charity that they were associated with. It was called Dancing with the Stars here in Dallas. And she said, I'm going to submit you, and I'm going to suggest to my friend, and the guy was Drew Pearson, football legend.
Yes.
Drew ran it, and she said, I'm going to email Mr. Pearson and say that there isn't a smarter person than Michelle LaMont, and she's going to do it all for free. And that was literally some of the best things that ever happened to me. Still today, one of my clients, Tony Casillas, was dancing. He's still my client. And I took a different approach. I said everybody else had done this as a group, like they were selling the Dancing of the Stars. In my opinion, it was so much smarter to sell to their demographic. So my debutante, Crystal Schlegel, we needed all the SMU sorority girls, and I got her on the cover of this little magazine, which was her dream come true. And then I got Tony on Good Day Dancing, to have a Super Bowl champ in there, foxtrotting, and he's so sexy like Mr. Rock, his beautiful wife. And so of course they loved it. So every person that was on there, Rebecca Miller, and she was at that time, I believe, NBC, and she was doing weather before she had gone to CW. And, got her doing something with pets because she was a big animal lover. And then, so when I had the first success coming out of the gate with Crystal, in the first 2 days, I was like, I'm onto something, and created individual plans. So instead of having one client, I had 7, and it was for free. But I worked 12-hour days, and I'm pitching and writing and pitching and writing. And at the end of it, Tony's like, I want you to be my publicist. And he was a Super Bowl champ. And then there was somebody else, and she was working with a reality show. And, long story longer, I took a lot of chances and, ended up getting, a lot of success because I was willing to reach out to Bravo and say, I want to be your on the ground person for all these reality shows you're taping here. And, had to go to New York and take a writing test and do all this stuff. And I was like, I'll do it. So by day 60, I was not only profitable, I was pretty close to hiring somebody. And, got my, I think it was Lamont Media Consulting Group, and went and got that, LLC. And, about 2 years after that, I incorporated and, had a staff of about 6 and, retainers from 2 to 5,000 a month. So that's the very long way, but you have to know the back to see the forward.
Right.
And in that process, I actually created another PR company for a friend of mine inadvertently. He was a reporter at Fox 4. And somebody had come to me and said, how do you get all this press? How do you get all of this free publicity for your business? He was like, I own this book company, and I want you to write a book on how to get free publicity for small businesses. Yeah. And I'm like, I have 4 stores. I have 4 temporary stores. I don't do this. But my friend, he was older. He had 2 kids. He's on the overpass on an icy day. And I said, Jeff, why are you doing this when you know every reason that people don't get on TV? You're the reporter. meet me at West End. So I showed him the book proposal that the other guy gave me, and I said, I think I can talk him into you. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, you should write a book on how to get publicity from the reporter's point of view. I said, that's the one thing that really helped me, because I started really asking reporters and, producers and line people and directors, like, what makes a good segment? Why do people do this? Why this? And I said, people aren't going to ask those kinds of questions. So after berating him for about 4 or 5 months, he finally said yes, wrote his first chapter. Then there's the book is dedicated to his grandmother, his mother, his wife, his daughter, his kid, and Michelle LaMont. And the first chapter is The Magic of Michelle. Well, this chick with her dog bakery bugged me, and I got her on TV, and the rest is history. About a year after the book came out, Jeff left Fox 4, and we had a big party for him, and he started Real News PR and has become a millionaire since then. I have not. But cheers to him. And
there's still time.
There's still time. But we have very different philosophies in PR, so I didn't want to work for him. And, it's very, to me, it makes me so happy that, I have influenced people that made their lives better and gave them opportunities that they didn't see. His daughter worked for me at Foxy Paws. She was one of my cashiers. Yeah. And now she runs like something in their division, like Speakers Bureau or something, Nice. So, it's incredible that when you see these just little slivers that most people, I think, ignore, I see them as opportunities. And, my mom always said, don't look at the people in the room. Look at the whole room. And what she meant was see with your third eye. Most people just see what's right in front of them as opposed to everything that's possible. And when you're raised with somebody that doesn't have these small-minded, expectations, where she was washing clothes in a river and then became a beauty queen, came to America, married a rich white man, had 5 beautiful children, businesses. In her mind, it's ridiculous that you ever aim low.
Right.
And the room is the opportunity, not the person. So that being said, from the beginning, I saw her market her business and, always out there talking to people and giving, hey, come to my salon and come to this place, come this. So, I think it's all an evolution, but I really wish that more children were taught that to believe in something bigger than themselves, to take a risk, to take chances, because I failed so many times. But for every time that I failed, there was something positive to learn. And that was the thing that kept me going. Even if I got 25 no's, one person said yes. And I would tell my husband, well, this dog store is going to carry the treats. And it's like, oh, they're a little bitty grooming shop. How many are they going to sell? I'm like, well, they have a lot of customers. And then those customers might go to Tom Thumb or Whole Foods and blah, blah. That's ridiculous. So, when you see somebody and you live with somebody that has such a different ideology than you do, you really understand that you're so different than everybody else. And you either suppress it or you just absorb the crazy. And I was like all in on crazy. I was like, what? Why not? And then he became all in on crazy a little bit too, and it helped him grow as a person, I hope. And I grew in a different way because he was so conservative and everything else. I learned to okay, maybe I really should look before I jump sometimes.
Yes. I've had to learn that a few times myself as well.
And it's a very valuable lesson, but I would definitely rather look at life through my lens than his lens. And, so, now it's, I think, in 2018 will be 7 years that Lamont PR has been around, and I got an incorporation, year 4, and I own 90% of the business. My dogs own 10. My ex-husband does not own any and never did. And he was an employee of mine for the entire time until we separated.
Wow.
So he left his job and came work for me a second time, which probably led to the demise of our marriage. But it was probably the demise of our marriage before that anyway. And I did need a better cheerleader than I had, and I really didn't. I really was everything I needed, but you just feel like you need something else, just like when I hired the PR company. So I do a lot of speeches now, and I donate time to minorities, especially minority women business owners, because I think they're the most underserved. They feel very intimidated to call a newsroom, or they don't feel like they have a place there, and I told him, I was like, I was a waitress that worked 2 jobs and rolled dough at Domino's. I wasn't any different than anybody here. And I just believed in the higher calling that I was going to get. And I wasn't going to let somebody stand in the way of my blessings. So don't stand in the way of yours. And that's one thing that makes me happier than anything, is seeing these women take chances and risks, because no one's ever told them that you should take a chance or you should take a risk. It's just not something that they're really brought up on, and not necessarily because of their financial background. I think that Americans in general are that way. But it's the dreamers that really change the world, like Einstein,
Yeah.
He dropped out of school in 4th grade, and for all intents and purposes, he should be an idiot and not be respected. And obviously he changed our world. And, so I believe in people that see the bigger picture and have that hope and dream. And I hope that I can then inspire them or help them or let them look for solutions that aren't just right there. Like this one lady was like, well, I can't afford this or I can't afford this. And I said, well, before I could buy my own mixer, I couldn't afford anything. So I was driving past a donut place, and I saw them locking up at noon. And I was like, well, what do they do from 1:00 until they come in? Who's using the bakery equipment? So I went to like 5 or 6 places because they were like dog food. I'm like, no, it's like blueberries and peanut butter and like you can eat it. And so until I finally convinced somebody to let me rent their bakery with their ovens and their cookie sheets. Everything had to be clean and everything. For 4 hours twice a week to make all the product. Then we'd take it to the car and take it to the apartment or the bakery and package it up, take it to Tom Thumb and everything like that. But I found a solution, even though there wasn't a solution. And that was a temporary solution, but it got me to a place where then I could buy my first Hobart. And that was like $3,000. And I was like, my car is $400, And, so I tell them like, just, it's important to not see what's right in front of you, but all of the opportunities, because, something my mom used to always say is the only excuses that work in life are the ones that you're willing to accept in Spanish. And it sounds a little bit different. But,
what does that sound like in Spanish?
Oh, let's see. Pues, solamente las cosas que tú no quieres saber son las cosas que tú puedes tener. So it's like, almost like, it's the things that you think that will stop you are the reasons that you won't have the things you want. So in my interpretation of it is, if you allow these things to be the excuses, then the excuses win.
Yeah.
And I don't really like excuses. So, I always thought like, there's another way, which irritated the crap out of my ex-husband because he's like, just throw the towel in. I'm like, no. It's like, Michelle, we're going to be broke. I'm like, but we have to give it all we have. We have to try everything. Like, maybe if we do this and maybe if we do that. No. Like, I know you want to sit there, but I'm not, And so like, he was great in other areas and that was my area. So, but it was one thing that I have to say is that going into it, it's important to always remain open-minded, be creative. I hate the word think outside the box, but don't even think in that way. What is your goal? Okay, so the goal is the only thing you think about. You don't think about the road to get there and how it's going to be this or how it's going to be that, because if you think that, it's probably going to be that. But if you think, like, I want this as my goal. So this didn't work, let me try this. This didn't work, let me try this. Let me try this. This didn't work. And if you tried everything and you failed, you probably have just missed one thing, or it just wasn't meant to be, really. Like, you know, and there has been times where it just wasn't meant to be, you know, and I had to be like, okay, we're not going to be in the dog, you know, feeder business, or we're not going to be in this business, you know. And with PR as well, like in the beginning, I would take every client on. And then I realized I don't want to work with every client and I'm not good at every category.
Yeah.
And, there are certain things that I'm way more suited for, and there's things that I'm not. And that kind of like differentiated it. And although I don't believe in being niche, people are like, oh, what kind of clients do you have? The ones that are interesting to me. And I've never been a person that chased money. I believe if you do good work, the money will come. And that's what my principle is. Am I doing good work? And every time I've done great work, I've leveled up. So, you know, a $1,500 retainer becomes a $2,000 to a $2,500 to a $3,000 to a $10,000. And, you know, there's times where you have no clients, and there's times where you have too many clients. And, you know, so you have to be very smart about saving your money and not just going to Mexico for the weekend. That may or may not have happened. But I think that a lot of people wouldn't believe my story, unless it wasn't so public, you know, or you can Google every aspect of my life. Sometimes when I do speeches about this, or about motivation or business or public relations, I touch on different aspects of my life in small amounts, and people are so moved by that. Unfortunately, one of my friends was so moved after hearing one of my speeches. Sure, Fox hates me, but her name was LaToya, and we were very good friends, and she came up to me after the end of the speech, and she said, Michelle, you're right. I said, if you drive to work every single day, and somebody else is getting promoted, and somebody else is getting what you want, can you honestly say that you've done everything you can to be in that position? And if the answer is yes, then you need a different job. Because if you're not driving up to your job with excitement and passion and desire, you're cheating your company, but most importantly, you're cheating yourself, and life is short. My mom was only here for 41 years. And those 41 years were such an incredible 41 years. And, you know, she was somebody that would always tell you I love you and always be happy to see people. Like everywhere she went, everybody loved her. So I was like that. I always help people and always do anything I can for anybody. Anything. That's why I'm not a millionaire. I give it all away, you know. Don't ask for any money. I'm poor now. I'm just kidding. So, you know, LaToya came up to me at the end of the thing, and she was like, Michelle, you're right. I've tried everything I can. I'm not where I want to be. I'm going to quit Fox. And I was like, wait. No, like, you have a great job. You know, you're in a top 5 market, you know? I'm like, you're beautiful. You're smart. You're talented. She goes, right. But I'm not on the desk. And it might be because I'm not white. It might be because I'm not this. It might be because I'm not that. But I don't drive up to my job with passion. I see people lesser than me getting better positions and better situations. And the only person that I have to blame for my unhappiness is me. And I didn't realize it until I heard that today. And, you know, my friend Tracy Cornett was at CBS, and she was there, and she was like, LaToya, don't do this. Then there was like, you know, a couple of our other media friends, and she's like, no, Michelle's right. And she left. She quit. And went into business. I think she did well in her business, but didn't end up liking it. Got offered a great position to be on the desk in Vegas, Las Vegas.
Nice.
Yes. So she's now an anchor. Not too shabby. Hanging out with Brittany and this, you know. And I remember I was at Taste of the NFL with my ex-husband, and LaToya was there with her cousin, and her cousin's dad is a very, very famous barbecue guy. He was an athlete, and he has like franchises, and they're very successful people. And the cousin was like, who's Michelle? And I was like, She's like, are you the one that talked LaToya out of getting her job, you know, leaving the station? I was like, no, I didn't do anything. I gave a speech. She felt some kind of way, and now she's done. She's like, it's the greatest thing ever. She's happier than she's ever been. And then LaToya told my husband at the time, my ex-husband now, I don't know if you understand how powerful and important Michelle is to our world. she makes people leave jobs and change careers, and everybody ends up better for it. And like just this whole thing, which, I'm sure he's rolling his eyes, like, oh God, don't feed the monster. And when LaToya got the job in Vegas, I remember she sent me a message and she was like, I really am at my best job. And if I'd stayed in Dallas, this never would have happened. And whether I was successful with what I was doing or not, which I did fine, she was like, wasn't the point. It was that I would never have ended up here. And I learned something so valuable because, she said, coming from a successful Black family, you really don't want to rock the white boat in a sense because you are on TV. Take that. And you said, why would you settle for anything less than your best day ever? I said, if I walked outside this door today from Tower Club and I get hit by a bus, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that every single day I have done everything I can to have the best day I could. Not every day is a great day, and those bad days are still great days. But I'm doing it what I want, how I want it, and I'm finding solutions, and, that's the truth. And it really resonated with her, and I'm happy for it. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, although you go out in this world to start with one sort of thing or one idea of what your life is going to be, don't let yourself feel that whatever that math solution is that says you're supposed to be here is where you're supposed to be. Like, who cares if you're working at Wendy's today? Doesn't mean that you can't be doing whatever it is that your ultimate dream is. And I remember somebody said to me, like, well, aren't you giving people false hope? This guy, he was like, my daughter was here and, what you said, like, she can have anything she wants. That's not realistic. You need to really kind of be careful because you're a very powerful speaker, blah, blah. And I said, if it resonated with her, it's because she's a powerful person. You're not a powerful person. So you don't recognize somebody who has the ability to be powerful because you're safe in this little lawyer box where you go to your lawyer job and you look at the contract and the law doesn't change. So nothing changes, and that's comfortable for you. But for her, it's not. And he's like, well, don't you think that those are unrealistic expectations? I said, tell that to every person who has ever started from humble beginnings, that their goals and their dreams were unrealistic. And you tell me what their answer would be. And so for me, I feel that same way about, everything in this world, whether your goal is to be a mom or to be, a successful business person or to be a copier salesperson and then a dog bakery, and I can't cook. I burn water,
I had a girlfriend in high school that did that. I never thought that was possible.
Yeah, I did. I actually caught our pan in our kitchen on fire. And he came and was like, what's burning? I was like, oh, damn it, I was going to make macaroni and cheese. And there's like a flame and,
Oh.
But he made all the recipes for the dog treats, so it was like yin and the yang. And so I didn't allow or believe, just because I can't make anything doesn't mean I can't be the queen of the dog recipes. Who are they going to complain to?
Right.
Well, they're going to write a bad review. So, so I just really I just won't allow that type of thinking to get into my head. And the times that I've made the worst decisions are when I was the least confident about myself. And I judged everything and I was scared of this and scared of that and da-da-da-da. And that fear of the unknown was so powerful that it overtook my confidence. And when you don't believe in yourself, it's impossible for you to succeed. So when I meet with these small business owners and these women who don't have lofty goals, like they just have very small goals, I show them the opportunity and the possibility is out there. Like, well, why would you, if you attained that, why wouldn't you go for this? And why wouldn't you go for this? And even now with my business partners, I have, I have a social media business partner with Social Revolt, one of the greatest marketing companies in Dallas. Love Marty Martinez. We're just simpatico. So I said, I'm going to do PR for this event for you, because we want to get all these reels and edits put together so you can go after all the W hotels. And he was like, I only wanted like next summer, but you're right. And I was like, if it worked here, why wouldn't it work everybody? I go, just take all the W's in Texas then. And he's like, Michelle, I never would have thought of that. So although he's successful and hardworking and he's first generation too, he was just thinking it was a good thing to be where he was, and then to get all of them, which he does now have, wasn't something that was even in his wheelhouse. So I think if you are like me and you are somebody that constantly wants to challenge just not only yourself but the people around you, keep challenging them, because you may not be here tomorrow and you may have affected people's lives, generation. You know, if you can change one woman's house, you can change a whole family. And that's what I want. You know, I want these women to be like my mom. And, you know, she learned it watching Sesame Street, you know, and if you can do that, you can do anything. So that's the thing that I really strive for in life, is to not so much the dollars in the bank as the impact in life. And that really means that's the decimal that I want, you know, that's the comma I'm comfortable with. And luckily I'm talented enough and egotistical enough to charge a lot and have a small amount of clients and do great work for them, as opposed to being spread so thin, having lots of clients with multiple retainers and employees and this other thing, and do crappy work, which I'm not proud of. And now I can take that extra time and donate it and work with these charities and help people that, you know, may never have thought of certain solutions or ideas. And I know 5 or 6 businesses that can say that was because of this or that. And that's what really is my biggest thing, is like, great, I'm so happy that you're good at your job or that you love what you're doing, but that means that you also have an opportunity to help others. And what are you currently doing to actually make our world better? Are you doing anything in your day-to-day life? And if you're not, why not? Because even the small things count. Open a door for somebody. Let somebody in on traffic. Just start being nice. And then nice leads to kind. And kind leads to giving. And giving leads to success. Because success is not dollars. Money can come and go. And it will. But having the sense of looking back at things and seeing how your soul impacted other people's lives has got to be worth way more than the money you would have charged somebody or the financial success of this or that. Absolutely.
That goes like hand in hand with kind of what I believe. Throughout the course of my life, I've gotten to like this place where if I achieve 3 things in the course of a day, then I can check that day off as a successful day. Have I learned something new? Have I done something for somebody else? And have I laughed?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, and people, I don't know what everybody else is doing in the world. I just know what I'm doing. And I know that, you know, especially in this climate with what is going on in the U.S. for our government, and it's the first time in a long time that I've ever really had to like feel the minority feeling and fight the minority fight. And, you know, we're in a world right now that people don't want people like you and I to have what our last president wanted for us and what other people have wanted. We're in a world right now that they're trying to put women pregnant, barefoot in the kitchen, trying to prevent us from moving ahead, trying to prevent minorities from getting ahead. And it's even more crucial and more critical right now that people take any opportunity to be extra nice to people, take any opportunity to help somebody that doesn't look like you, that didn't come from your background, that for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter, because right now, the younger kids, they're looking at us, and the older people, they're already who they are. So we have to, as a society, really understand that if we're not out there making sure that our voices are heard, that the goals that we believed in 5 years ago can still be achieved, even though everybody says and everybody wants you to get back into your box. That it's more powerful right now to be against the curve than to go with whatever everything's going. And the thing that's most shocking to me, not to be too political, is how the stock market has been just gangbuster. It tells you that, the hope as an American isn't financially sound, but having somebody that is going to eliminate all of the things like, I don't know, our environment, laws for women, funding for minorities in college, all the things that helped us as a country get to this place. They're scared of that and they want to take it back. You can't let them do that. You have to get out there and help more women or help more people or be in a situation where you're not letting a minority feel like they're alone in that fight. And it's more important today than ever to get out there and get out of your comfort zone and tell people that you should believe, you should want this, you can have this. And, I posted some things on my social media and a editor sent me a message to call him, and I called him and he said, hey, we love working with you. You're very good at what you do, but you can't publicly be so against, this administration and talk about being an immigrant and what, immigration means. And it's going to hurt your business. And I'm telling you as a friend. And I said, well, if you were my friend, you would not tell me that. And I appreciate your concern, but I'm not going to let a financial situation dictate a moral situation. To me, there's no, it's church and state. If you don't want to work with me because I believe in supporting minorities, then we're not going to get along anyway. And just because you can write a check that you can afford me doesn't make what you're saying and feeling right. And that, I think, is something that most people in business don't do or won't do, where for me, I don't work for anybody that is a minority. All my clients are white men.
Wow. Because
they're all the CEOs and decision makers. And I've gotten them to donate money to places they never would have donated to, and to hire and work with and think about situations that they never would have thought about. And they don't care if I'm at the immigration rally or if I'm volunteering to help with the travel ban or whatever. They know that I do good work. And if there's people in, the world and the media that think that my posts are too, anti-government or whatever, and decide not to carry me for whatever reason, that's on them. I don't think that it's hurt my clients. I don't think that it's hurt my ability to do my job. And I don't want to be second, and I don't want to pretend like I'm okay with what's going on. And, so it's all of that. And I think that, more people need to really try to see the other person's side. Buddha says that the only fair resolution is for you to be in your other person's shoes, and that nobody really wins. Because when you get into the other person's position, you start to see it in a whole different, if you're really honest, you start to see it in a whole different way. I was the client before I was the PR person. Then I saw how terrible it was to be treated like an invoice and a check, and have no concern or passion or care about all the struggle that it took me to get there. And I think about that when I work with my clients. Would I hire me? And then the other side is, what are you doing right now besides making money? Are you doing something that is giving back to this world? Are you doing something that could benefit somebody in some way? Or is your whole world an egotistical trip for yourself? And I don't surround myself with people like that. I don't feel comfortable around people like that. And, I've broken up a lot of friendships of mine because they'll say, racially insensitive things, and you try to explain it to them and it still lands on deaf ears because they've only lived one kind of way and they're not listening to the other side. So it can be a lonely road, but at the end of the day, it's better to be on a path with 3 or 4 good people than 100 fake people.
Well, then, Nick, I want to be respectful of your time. I know generally I ask for an hour of your time. Are we okay for time?
Yeah.
Okay. That kind of dives into, what are some of the pitfalls that you see from like a PR perspective that you see sort of people tending to make?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem.
My friend she's like, please call me so much. Okay.
Just like what sort of pitfalls from that you've seen on a PR side that you see
people making all the time?
Yeah.
The number one thing I say in speeches is that people think that they want to buy advertising or do public relations and go everywhere. And what they don't understand is the basic science of PR. There is a science to it. If your demographic is 18 to 24, then why are you pitching the Dallas Morning News? What millennial that's 18 to 24 is reading the Dallas Morning News, but that's the truth. They're tweeting, they're, Snapchatting. Where are they getting their news and information? How are they connected to their world? Yeah. So the thing that I say with that is most people do not know their demographic. And if you don't know your demographic, you're going to fail because you're going to spend time, energy, and effort to get everybody instead of starting with your core group of people, the people that are most likely to utilize your company and your business, and grow that word of mouth with them, get their friends who are like them, who are like you or like your business. And then once you have a stable foundation of clients that pay the bills, that get the lights on, that get everything taken care of, then you can go and be adventurous and take those next steps. But people want to run and they haven't even started crawling, So I would say make sure that you exactly know who your clients are, what their shopping habits are, what their reading habits are, and pay attention to that. It's not what you think. It's what they think. And when I meet with clients, it's always, well, I think this and I think that. Okay. But what does the audience think? What does the customer think? That's the biggest mistake.
Right. I guess as we kind of wrap up, how do you define success?
Well, this is a question I ask my clients every single time we're going to do a new contract. What's your definition of success for PR? What's your definition? So I think success, do you mean in life or in my career or like in general?
However that question hits you.
So I think success is wanting what you have. What is that saying? I always say it. It's not having what you want, but wanting what you have. And that to me is success. Do you want what you have right now? If you're happy with everything that's in your life, whether you're living, in a little shack in a very poor place of the world, but every day you're happy, then you have been more successful than whatever the billionaire person is that you think is going to be happy. Most people that are happy, the happiest people are the most successful because they're not necessarily wanting to do it for a monetary reason. They're wanting to do it because it makes them happy. And to me, success is happiness. It's wanting what you have and appreciating that. And every day I wake up, so thankful for my 4 dogs. And I'm so thankful for my house. It's a humble house. I love my house, but I'm thankful and I have my dream car, and I'm thankful for these little things, and I might play my music a little bit too loud for your taste, but guess what? I had a car that I had a jam box in at one time and that I had to put my earphone in, and my headphones on. And now I have one that has killer bass with Hammond Salmon something booming speakers. And that's my happiness. So success, I think, is being happy in where you are. Because if you're not happy in the moment that you're in right now, the moment you're seeking isn't going to make you any happier. People think, oh, if I change this, I'm going to be happier. No. If you move here, you're going to be happier. No, because it's just geography. If you make more money, you're going to be happier. No. Although it's more comfortable, it's not more happy. It's just different. And listen, it's much better to have money than to not have money.
Right.
But I wouldn't want to have money at any price because it's too expensive.
Absolutely.
My soul is all of my success. Every day, I'm so happy that I have friends in my life that truly love me, that want what's best for me, and I want what's best for them. That's success.
How do you define happiness?
I think happiness is obviously very similar, but it's when you go to sleep and when you wake up, there isn't a change. You don't go to sleep wishing tomorrow's a different day. And you don't wake up hoping that yesterday was different. You go to bed and you wake up, it's almost like Groundhog's Day because you're in this, things are going to go wrong and things go bad all the time. And if you don't have all these little things going wrong and bad, what kind of life do you really have? So if you're really, really, truly happy, every day is a great day. Even when it sucks, that's happiness.
What would you tell somebody wanting to make the jump into public relations?
I would say understand what it is that you really want. When I went into the public relations field, it's because I had taken something that was nothing and turned it into something huge, and I wanted to teach other people how to do that. So if you're going into PR for ego because you want to hang out with, celebrities or you want to be on TV or anything like that, you're going to fail. Or you're going to hate it. If you're going into public relations because you want, the public relations is basically the act of communicating from an entity to its public. What is the story that you want to tell and how is it that you're going to help them tell it? And I always tell people, I want to tell your story to the right people in the right way. Are you going into it for your own personal benefit or are you going in it to be of service? If you're going into it to be of service, you're going to love this career. If you're going into it for money, you're going to hate it because it's grueling, it's hard. You have to have a very thick skin. I'm told no about 10 times a day. Why the hell are you pitching me this? Email me, which is the death, It's like, yeah, I'll put that in an email. Okay, well, it's going to be exactly what I said on the phone. So, it's just going to be another no. So you have to be somebody that you have to be very passionate about it. And then there's all types of PR. There's corporate PR, there's practical, there's critical PR, like crisis PR, publicity, publicist. There's a lot of areas. So if you're a good storyteller, but maybe not want to be on TV, then this might be a good way for you to do it. I think that with anything, just like PR, you need to make sure that you're in it because it's passion and it drives you, as opposed to, I think I can make a lot of money. Because you can make a lot of money doing anything. I could quit PR and get another career tomorrow and make a lot of money too. Money will always come if you're good at your job. But don't chase it. Be good at your job, and then you'll love what you do. You'll find your happiness. You'll find your success. You're not going to be worried about the phone ringing and client being mad at you. If you're always doing it in the right way with the right intent, it's going to be great. But if you're going into this, I get interns and I ask them that, why do you want to do this? Oh, I want to be like you. I want to be at all the TV stations and I want to go to the red carpets and I want to do this. And I'm like, that's the least favorite part of my job. That's the least favorite part of my job, It's just part of it. So, it isn't for everybody, and it's a very difficult field, and a lot of people fail at it. And doesn't really bode well. PRSA is probably like, Michelle, but it's true. And I think that you should really analyze what it is that you're wanting out of this career and why you're doing it before you just take that step and do it. And, there's a lot of people that are very good at it, and there's a lot of people that are very bad at it. And those people are the ones that make it bad for people like me. Because you don't trust them, I've experienced it myself.
Yeah. What would you tell your younger self?
I would have said, like, with my rose-colored glasses, it gets better. But that's not really true. I don't think anything gets better. I think it just gets different. And I think what I would tell young Michelle, is that you're right. Every time you doubt yourself, every time somebody tells you to give up, every time somebody tries to put you back in the little box, you are right. Don't let them do it. And for the most of my life, I believed that, but there's been years and years where I didn't, and suffered things I shouldn't have suffered because I just didn't have this confidence in myself and didn't believe I could get that. And for the other part that I did, I was really good at it. And then the other part that I didn't, I was really bad at it. So I would say to younger Michelle, you're right. Believe in your stubbornness. Believe that, all the crazy ideas that come into your head for a reason. And don't allow anything or anyone to tell you to not shine. Because everybody does. Nobody wants you to shine in this world. They want you to be a little good. Be good at your job, but don't be great. Because if you're great, then you're a threat to me. So be good, just not great. And I was never brought up that way. Like, from day one, I remember we were living in New York at the time, and, I came home with a paper, and there's my name, and it had the letter B-. And my mom's like, in her broken English, she played that to her advantage a lot of times. Michelita, ¿qué es esto? Estas palabras, ¿por qué dices aquí? And I was like, well, A plus is the best, A is the middle, A-, B plus, B, and then B-. Ay, pues aquí estás, A plus, B. So, usted says, like, you're sixth place? I was like, well, no, like, it's A is a grade and B is a grade, but, like, this specifically, I was trying to, because you always thought you had to be very specific with her, because it was, like, missed out. And so she was like, well, there's 5 of us, right? So I think there was 3 of us at the time, maybe 4. I don't know if the other one was born yet. She's like, so when we make a decision, basically, we ask you the 6th time. You don't get the first choice or the second choice, or the third choice, because you're only worth a B-. And she's like, Mija, your name, Michelle LaMont. It doesn't sound like anybody from my country. It's on purpose. You sound American, and that name should mean something. So if you want to be a B+ for the rest of your life, or a B-, go ahead. But you were born to be an A. And so my name has to be an A. You have to think that way, you have to be that way, and, that's basically why.
Wow. Do you have any final thoughts?
My final thought would be, honestly, life is so short, and if you love the Kardashians, don't let anybody tell you that they're not talented and they're not smart. Don't let anybody's judgments or thoughts or ideals become yours. I would implore that every single person meditate every single day. Right when you wake up, that's what I do. Go into my bathroom, cross my legs, turn the light off, and I clear my brain. And the reason that I do that is because you're influenced by all these things, your friends, TV, what your neighbors look like, everything, right?
Right.
And you're perfect exactly how you are. We shouldn't want to be other people. We just need to be who we are. and then be the best we can be. Don't change for anybody else. If you want to change, it's because you see that what you're doing isn't really working for you, not because you're broken or you're wrong. We're all supposed to be different. We're all supposed to find our own way. And it's the second that you don't believe in your true self that you end up getting a life you don't deserve. I know I haven't been my true self. I wasn't my true self for 10 years in my marriage. And if I had been, we would have been separated or maybe even worked it out. Who knows? But because I wasn't my true self, I was more what my partner wanted me to be than who I was miserable and I was unhappy for so long and didn't even realize it. And then, once I divorced him, and we went our separate ways after the pain and everything ended, I started finding myself again. And everything changed. The way I looked changed. Physically, I became healthy again because I loved myself. And everything that I wanted, I had. And I started really visualizing my life. And I would make little boards for myself. What do I want out of life? What do I want out of, my situation? Life. I want to travel. I want to do more speaking. I want to, have clients that with bigger budgets so I don't have to work hard for nothing. And as far as wealth goes, I want bigger accounts, better accounts, smaller accounts, smaller amount of clients, bigger accounts, more money than I can spend. And guess what? Since I started visualizing all of those things have happened. I physically have changed. I travel more than I can. What I did was I read The Secret. That really impacted me. It really did. It's a powerful book, and I gave it to all of my nieces and nephews that went to college and taught them the secret of the secret. And I said, it's that idea that the only excuses that work are the ones that you're willing to accept, which was who I was, and that's who my mom was. And these people that have achieved incredible amount of success, no one's ever heard of Marlene Sterling. No one ever will. Nobody knows what this woman was. Just us kids. But through her ability to believe in herself and believe in everybody she sees, she's allowed all of her children to change people's lives. So, the one thing that I would say more than anything else is know who you are, set yourself up for success by your standards and not anybody else's, and watch your life become a life that you really want instead of a life you're just living. And I would say if you don't wake up and go to sleep feeling the same way, then you're doing it wrong. If you're hoping to win the lottery, you're doing it wrong. Because why do you need millions? You don't. Maybe some people do. I don't think you do. I just don't believe in putting so much emphasis on money. Although I say that with a snobby sense of that I live in a 2,000 square foot house in Plano and I drive a BMW and, I make six figures. But I do it in a way that really benefits other people as much as it benefits me. And that's the happiness. And I don't want to live one more. If I die tomorrow, for sure the last year and a half has taught me that I shouldn't have wasted so much time being unhappy to make somebody else happy. And it's not like you want to make yourself happy so you only think about yourself. But if you're not waking up and going to sleep with the joy in your heart, then everybody in your life, including yourself, are going to be miserable and unhappy and very unsuccessful. That's my closing thought. If I had one.
Michelle LaMont, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for doing this. I hope I didn't burn out the recorder, and the drive is big enough to take up my... Lamouth will always be in the building, folks.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the podcast. Thank you so much to Michelle LaMont for sitting down with me for the podcast and for sharing her insight. For more information on Lamont PR, you can visit www.lamontpr.com. lamontpr.com, and that's spelled LAMONTPR.com. And you can also follow them on Twitter at Lamont PR. Keep up with the Avert Your Eyes podcast, or check out past episodes by visiting our website, avertyoureyeспod.com. There you'll find everything you need to subscribe to the podcast, with links to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Twitter, and more. It's the holiday season, and the podcast has been around for over a year now, so to say thanks for your support, every Saturday in December of 2017, we are giving away a gift card. Our first giveaway will be a $10 Starbucks gift card. So from now until December 1st, go to the Avert Your Eyes Podcast Facebook page at facebook.com/Avert Your Eyes Podcast. Be sure to like our pinned post at the top of the page for episode 23 of the podcast, and you will receive an entry. Leave a comment on that post and receive another entry. Want to gain an additional 5 entries? We'll include a link to the Apple Podcast page for the Avert Your Eyes podcast, and please leave a rating and review. And when you do, you will receive an additional 5 entries. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I'm Michael Gibson Jr., and until next time on the Avert Your Eyes podcast, consider yourself warned.